Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to start with the general discussions that we are having this morning, especially in the Q&A session, about neutrality. All genocide is political, whether you agree with me or not. All. There cannot be any discussion on the crimes against humanity if you are not taking a side. Whether the West or the South or East and West, any direction you look at, it is political. So that is my starting point of today's discussion. And in the West, particularly, what is happening is a huge social polarization about the current situation in Gaza. There is no unified voices, and you are judged based on your identities, which side you are in, automatically. If you write a piece in Conversation, which I wrote about encampments and the protests, and I just wanted to talk about it because there were tons of emails and threats, because you are a Muslim. So let it be very clear that it is highly political discussions that we ought to keep in mind. Moving to the specific questions about Monk, religious peace building, that is one of my arguments in the paper that I submitted to the professor for publications, possible publication, is that there are scopes actually. And in the case of Myanmar, it was ultranationalist Buddhist movement, what we call 969, that triggered this major grassroots level hatred. The killings of Rohingyas, for example, if you go to the village level, where I have really studied quite deeply, who informed to the military that this village, at these homes, there are 5 Muslim Rohingyas, and Rohingyas are 98% Sunni Muslims, as you know. So there are that hatred that germinated and seeped through the absolutely family level, village level. And this is something triggered by this movement. And especially Rohingyas are Muslims, as you know, and there is a wider scope of track to diplomacy using peace. And of course, there are divisions amongst Buddhism is not the only group that we're talking about. In general, the Theravada Buddhism, promotes the leadership things and all. So I think there is an enormous scope of religious peace building, and that's what I'm arguing in my paper. And in my PhD thesis, I also studied religious or faith-based peace building. Moving to your question, ma'am, about dealing with the armed insurgent groups or whatever you call them, because you see, in the field of political violence and many cases terrorism, one group is heroes against other. So you might not really conceive who is who, because look at the Syria, how the situation turned in. But one of the practical ways that I always advertise and promote is that let's have a plan. Is there any plan in Sudan, South Sudan particularly? There is no plan. Is there any organization talking about anything about bringing peace? None. And this is my problem, that at the United Nations level or at the regional level, African Union, let's say, in Africa, in the case of Myanmar, ASEAN, there is no plan. And if you have a plan, then we'll sort it out who's coming and who's going. But the essential part is a turning point in a conflict. In the case of Aceh, there was a tsunami. In the case of Myanmar, the whole situation is changing rapidly, favoring the ethnic armed organization. So there must be a moment in history where you should come up with a plan. But if you don't have a plan at the background, what did you do? So this is what is my brief answer to it. However, I'm very hopeful that all these groups, they have objectives. So whether you like it or not, there are objectives you have to listen to. And I think a final question was about what do you see in terms of diplomacy? And this is again my basic argument this morning through my paper and me coming here, is that we have to give chance to diplomacy. We have not yet given full chance, believe me, neither in the West nor in the West or South, whatever direction you look at. And this is what I'm saying, that please, let's give a chance to diplomacy and see whether it works or not at what point in time. Thank you very much.